Our third speaker is Mr. Diamond, who will discuss the importance of STEM education while shedding light on the road to achieving the SDGs. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And it's especially an honor to be sitting here with these extraordinary women who I share this panel with. Before I start, I want to tell you that I had the privilege of growing up in a household with an extraordinarily powerful and amazing mother and two extraordinarily powerful and amazing sisters. So the very notion of a world in which we don't have gender equality has something that's always been a passion of mine and something that I've always been, in many cases, very angry about. So angry, in fact, that, the first version of this speech was pretty angry. And then it turned out that we have a woman on our board of trustees at the SETI Institute who is far wiser than I, who said, maybe you don't want to be quite so angry. We've all started that email, right, when we were mad about something, and we said, maybe I shouldn't hit the send button on this. So what you're going to hear today is a softened version of my impassioned remarks and perspective on this subject. But also, I look forward to the day when we don't celebrate women in science. Not because it's not deserving of celebration, but because it'll be so much the norm, it just won't be necessary. All right, here's the friendly version. The importance of gender equality in all categories, be they social, economic, or educational, cannot be overstated. But it all starts with gender equality in education. The SETI Institute was founded by Dr. Jill Tarter, a pioneer glass ceiling breaking female astronomer who pursued her chosen field at a time when women were not even allowed in observatories. Had it not been for her perseverance, her tireless pursuit of gender equality and fairness, not only would the world miss out on the talents of a brilliant scientist, the SETI Institute would likely not even exist. And the movie Contact, where Jodie Foster's character was based on Jill Tarter, would likely never have been made. The very idea that half the world's population should be excluded from access to education, be excluded from having a voice at voting polls in democratic societies, and be denied access to equal rights and equal pay is not only a travesty that lives on to this day in many countries, but is an inexcusable waste of a brain trust and a talent base that we so desperately need, now more than ever. The UN's 3 pillars of sustainability are: number 1, economic prosperity; number 2, social justice; and number 3, environmental integrity. Together, they speak of the reality that even in 2024, humanity has so much work to do to sustain our existence and ensure our long-term viability as a species. While I might advocate for economic equality over economic prosperity, the UN's pillars of sustainability offer us a framework for pursuing urgently needed improvements to the human condition and our relationship with our environment. Underpinning the UN's pillars of sustainability are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that have been identified as key objectives for the betterment and long-term survivability of humankind. I applaud the UN in recognizing quality education, gender equality, and reduced inequalities among its principal goals. But I would go one step further to note that issues of equality, be it in terms of gender, ethnicity, religion, or nationality, be seen not just as goals, but as absolutely essential elements of a global effort that supports and enables the pillars of sustainability. I would argue that the Sustainable Development Goals of ending poverty, eliminating hunger, and supporting health and well-being for all people can only be achieved if we have equality on all fronts: social, economic, and educational. Other SDGs, such as clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work, and economic growth, are also unachievable without an educated population that includes the entirety of humanity. The SETI Institute is a world-class center of research, education, and outreach in space and earth sciences, specifically because of our gender diversity. Dr. Natalie Cabral is our Director of Research at the Institute, and our Directors of Education, Communications, Grants Administration, Talent Development are all women. Even the director of our Postgraduate Machine Learning Research Accelerator is a woman. Our educational programs focus on bringing impactful STEM topics to underserved and underrepresented communities, including young girls, middle and high school teachers in low-income school districts across the country, and community colleges around the nation that serve as a bridge to higher education for underserved groups, including Indigenous peoples. These programs are not born out of any sense of altruism on our part, as much as they are born out of the realization of a practical necessity that to address the many and complex challenges of our modern world and to ensure the long-term sustainability of the human species, it's all hands on deck. If we don't embrace all of humankind, to elevate humankind, to enhance the human condition and give people the world over the opportunity for health, happiness, and prosperity, we are doomed to the fate of many species who have gone before us and no longer exist, except that in our case, it will be a failure of our own making. Among the other SDGs identified by the UN is climate action. From personal perspective, I see climate action, or a united effort to both recognize and address the environmental crisis unfolding before our eyes each and every day, as being of paramount importance. All of the UN's SDGs are laudable and desirable objectives, but in the absence of a sustainable environment that can support the long-term viability of our species, they are rendered as largely inconsequential. So here again, the SDGs of quality education, gender equality, and reduced inequalities rise to the level of essential rather than desirable goals. Our long-term prognosis is rather bleak without these necessary conditions being met. It is thus a privilege to participate in a UN event that celebrates 1/2 of the world's population in this 9th International Day of Women and Girls in Science event. Until we have gender equality, none of our other goals, aspirations, or desires as a species and as a civilization can be met. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.